Itch it up, my selector.
Due to some violent content, parental discretion is advised.
I know you're gonna dig this.
And happy Saturday, everyone. Happy Saturday. This is Maestro, and I am back for another one with my main man, Joe. We haven't done lives with each other for a while, but we've committed to doing them consistently now moving forward. Tune in 8 a.m. Saturdays for me plus Joe. Sucker Punch. We're going to be talking about different topics. And look, there's a lot of negativity in the world these days, so we have to look for the positive things that we can look forward to. And if you're a boxing fan, there is definitely a lot to look forward to, all right? Because Tyson Fury is going to be taking on Alexander Usyk in a rematch fight. We've got Inoue, top pound-for-pound fighter in the world, taking on Sam Goodman before the end of the year. Then next year, we've got a stacked card, absolutely stacked card, taking place in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. You can see it there on the screen if you're tuning in on YouTube, on X, or on IG. Hit the like button, all right? Hit the heart button. If you're on X, retweet it. Let people know we're here. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. You're watching Ringside Reporter live right now, all right? And make sure you ding those notification bells to know when we are live. But before we get to that, we do have a fight card, multiple fight cards actually this weekend that we're going to talk about. And, you know, Joe and me, we both like to delve into the business power dynamics of the sport of boxing and why things happen, why they don't happen, who's in charge, who's running things, who are the real decision makers behind the scenes that are making fights happen and preventing fights from happening. So we're going to get all into that too when it comes to this Boots Ennis situation at 154 and 147. So Joe, the floor is yours. Talk to us about which fight card you're going to watch live and which fight card you're going to watch on demand, because we do have competing fight cards tonight. Richardson Hitchens, aka Africa, from right here in New York City, Brooklyn, New York. He's a Cops and Kid graduate. He's going to be taking on Liam Parro in San Juan, Puerto Rico, live on the Zone for the IBF title at 140 pounds. And then, of course, on ESPN Plus, it's the Navarrete Valdez rematch. And the undercard of that includes the rematch of Robesi Ramirez, who was stopped by Espinoza, a guy who I have as the top 126 pounder in the world. Joe, the floor is yours. Go for it.
Well, I love the Liam Parro Richardson Hitchens fight because we've never seen Hitchens pushed, right? And the question I always have for a fighter like Shakur Stevenson, Richardson Hitchens, and we had these questions about Devin Haney in the past until he fought Lomachenko. And we want to see what these guys have when they're pushed to the brink, right? When they're forced to kind of fight out of their comfort level and comfort zone. Because these are guys that like space, they like to move, they like to, they're risk averse, a lot of these guys, right? And Richard Hitchens is definitely a risk adverse fighter. Liam Parro is not. Now, that doesn't mean Liam Parro is reckless. That doesn't mean he's not skilled, but he does not mind jumping into the line of fire and exchanging when he has to. We really never seen Richardson Hitchens put in those situations. And definitely, in my opinion, we're going to see that today or tonight, rather. And I don't believe, and I could be wrong, I don't believe he's going to be able to deal with that work rate of Liam Parro, that intelligent pressure of Liam Parro. And I've told you this several times. I'm biased towards these guys that can grind it out on the inside. And Liam Parro is definitely one of those guys that can grind it out on the inside. And I think once this fight enters that realm of, we're going into the trenches, because I do believe Liam Parro can force this fight in the trenches, because I do think he's got quick feet. I do think he's got a little bit of explosiveness to him. And I believe that's going to trouble Richardson Hitchens in this fight. And I'm predicting a late stoppage in this fight, maybe around 9 or 10 rounds. And I know that is outside the box. It's probably one of the lower probabilities in a lot of people's mind. But you know me, man, I go against the grain, and I am going against the grain today. I'm going to be in the minority, and I am picking Liam Parro by KO in the 10th round. I'm going to say 10th round.
Joe, we're at the poker table, right? You've put in all your chips on the late round stoppage. You know what I'm doing? I'm putting in my chips on the late round stoppage. Because you know what? I agree with everything you said. And when I look back at Hitchens' last fight against Gustavo Lemus, everything you just said, okay, that Liam Parro is going to do, and that's going to give Richardson Hitchens trouble, we already saw Gustavo Lemus do it and give Richardson Hitchens trouble. The difference is Liam Parro's a better fighter than Richardson Hitchens. Sorry, Liam Parro's a better fighter, yes, than Richardson Hitchens, but also than than Lemos. Okay, the inside work is going to be key. There were so many moments in Hitchens' last fight, Joe, where we both saw him in uncomfortable moments. We both saw him not want to engage in that inside fighting. We saw him resorting to holding. We saw him holding excessively, I would say. And I would also say excessive movement. I mean, there comes a point, and we talked about this with Andre Ward, right? In some of his fights, there comes a point where you have to stand there. You have to hold your ground. You have to trade, right?
You get respect.
You got to get respect, and
you can't move the whole fight either. Sugar Ray Leonard once said you can only move so much in a fight, and at some point you got to stand your ground, as you just alluded to, because moving away and fighting risk adverse and being overly concerned about what's coming at you to the point where the offense suffers, you're allowing that guy to control the fight by just coming forward, because he knows that your first course of action is to stay away, but not do anything to keep him off. So if you're not doing anything to keep somebody off and you're allowing them to dictate the pace, then you're the guy on the chessboard constantly being, in retreat mode.
100%. And here's the thing: when it comes to using your legs, when it comes to running, when it comes to clinching, that's going to be even more difficult for Richardson Hitchens in this fight. And I'll tell you why. The IBF rehydration clause. Okay. It's been stated by Hitchens' team that they were avoiding the IBF route for a world title because he did not want to submit himself to a rehydration clause. But then they decided to change their mind for this fight. Well, here's the deal. We're talking about a supremely conditioned Australian fighter that is going to be throwing more punches, and they are going to be hard punches, and this constant defensive counterattack, picking off shot approach. If there are any close rounds, you know how I score fights, Joe. Those rounds go to the guy that's landing the clean, effective punching. Thoughts?
Well, I want to add another layer of that right? Because I agree with you. First, let's get that out of the way. I do agree with that point, and we score pretty similarly in that regard, right? But here's another issue. When you're in there with a guy like Liam Parro, who's not going to accept the clinch, who's physically strong, and who's pretty crafty in the way that he can kind of wiggle out of those clinches. You try to grab him, he's going up underneath. You try to grab him, he's pushing you off, he's nudging you with the shoulder. This is a guy who's rough and tumble on the inside, and he knows how to create those angles on the inside. He knows how to get small, and he knows when to pop up and when to go underneath. And
he knows when to pick off shots, parry shots, slip shots, roll shots while being offensive.
Yeah, so that's the thing. We had a guy like Matias, who was a mid-range guy, not really a crazy inside guy, but he likes to collapse the pocket too. And we saw that Parro is able to kind of outmaneuver guys up close too. He can step around you, does a real like a sharp pivot, create punching angles for himself. So it's not like he's just a grinder, like he's just going to be like a bull on the inside. He's very, very strategic and very skillful and very elusive on the inside. And whether he has to push you off him, whether he has to nudge you off him, or whether he just steps around you and doesn't allow you to reach out and grab you. So if you're trying to reach out and grab you and he's kind of stepping around you, ripping shots to the side and then pivoting out the other side, ripping to the other side, and he's not letting you reach out and grab him because he's not straight in front of you, then you're gonna have a problem from all fronts here. You're gonna have a physicality problem. You're gonna have a problem with his maneuverability on the inside, and you're also gonna have a problem with the way he has great body positioning on the inside. Because it's not only being able to have offense on the inside, it's being able to have defense on the inside, and a lot of the offense is predicated off of you positioning yourself properly, bending your knees, making yourself a compact target, and not standing straight in the line of fire. And those are all little nuances to what Liam Parro brings to the table on the inside.
100%. I'll add one thing to that, which is his head movement. All right,
yeah.
On the inside.
Which is being able to part of it is being able to go up and underneath and pop up and shoot.
Again, your chips are on the table. I put all my chips on the table too. Right. And if anybody has said, "Oh well, Joker, you sure Liam can do that?" I don't know. Like, you're talking about a high IQ there. You're talking about a lot of technique. Where Montana Love at? Because everything Joe just said, he did against Montana Love. Where's Montana Love? We saw that fight, right? And Liam Parro was not the A side in that fight. There's another factor. Liam Parro was not the A side in the last fight either against Subriel Matias. In fact, he went all the way to Puerto Rico, to the Lions Den, to take on Matias. And we all saw what he did. So, guys, it may sound crazy. We're talking about Hitchens, who was a Mayweather protege, who T. Matchroom and Eddie made a big deal about when they signed. But until I see otherwise, this style, to me, is gonna be a big problem for Hitchens, and it's not gonna be a big problem for Liam Parro. My thoughts.
This could be a very similar fight, and I don't want to kind of poo-poo the fight a little bit, but this could be a very similar fight to the Liam Parro Montana Love fight, because the styles are so similar, right? And again, I don't want to be too negative here with Richardson Hitchens, but there's nothing on his resume that has prepared him for a fight like this. But we can't say the same for Parro. Parro has gone the harder route, and he's had the versatility in styles when it comes to opponents, right? There's a wide array of styles, and again, not to sound redundant, we can point back to that Montana Love fight, and Richardson Hitchens does fight very similar to Montana Love, really does. So
Yeah, it's a counter punching kind of pot shot style.
Yeah.
But to your point earlier and to my point earlier, when you're talking about a guy who can apply pressure while seamlessly transitioning between offensive attacks and defensive readiness, whether it's blocks, whether it's slips, whether it's rolls, um, that's going to be a problem, especially when he throws hard punches and they're consistent to the targets. And those targets, if I'm Parro, I'm working the body early on, and I'm testing what Richards and Hitchens has gone through in terms of making the weight and remaking another weight at the hydration clause. And here's the thing, the reason I think this is going to be exciting, Joe, is because at some point Hitchens is going to have to stand there and trade.
Parro's going to make it exciting. He's going to force the fight.
Exactly. Survival mode is not going to work against Liam Parro. It's just not. So at some point, he's going to have to take a stand. And look, I'll be happy if I'm proven wrong. If we see a Richard and Hitchens that can stand and trade and keep Parro off of him, but I'm just not putting much there from myself. Joe, go for it.
So to kind of expand upon your point a little bit. So he's going to try to lay back a little bit. He's going to try to set the traps, but when the traps aren't working, right? His corner is going to start saying to him, "Hey man, you're behind. You got to do something." And that's where the tactics are going to change.
Or whoever called his trainer and told him how to train in that. Yeah. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Somebody called his trainer to give him advice in the middle of a fight.
Yeah. And this is kind of funny because this fight is going right back to Puerto Rico. So is Liam Parro the new adopted son of Puerto Rico?
It's starting to look like that.
They adopted him?
It's looking like that. It's looking like that. So that's the fight we're both watching live, right?
Yeah, that's the fight of the weekend, in my opinion.
Right. Me too.
And full disclosure, I'm a big Liam Parro guy. He's my guy at 140. I like Liam Parro.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's my guy at 140 because you look at the other guys at 140, and you could make an argument for Teofimo, I guess. But
you can.
You know what? Oh no, you know what? I think Parro's a more skilled.
He's more versatile. He's more versatile. Castillo's more of a counterpuncher.
I was actually going to compare him to a guy from his country at a lower weight class who gave Teo all kinds of problems in the fight I was at Madison Square Garden, where let's just keep it real. George Gambosis Jr. beat the brakes off of Teofimo Lopez, despite what his dad was saying about robbery and what he was saying about robbery. So there you go. Look, Arizona. There's another fight card. It's a rematch. I don't know how many people were clamoring for this rematch, but it is going to be an interesting fight. I'm actually more interested, believe it or not, Joe, in the undercard fight because it's do or die right now for Robeisy Ramirez, the Cuban Olympic gold medalist who infamously lost his pro debut, but then bounced back and became a champion at 126 pounds. Let's not forget that this is the fighter who in the Olympic Games defeated Shakur Stevenson. All right. In fact, when he was signed to Top Rank, the idea was that at some point he'd be taking on Shakur Stevenson. Well, he's still at 126 pounds. Shakur left 126, moved up to 130, left 130, moved up to 135. And here we are with Robeisy Ramirez having to rematch now Rafael Espinoza, the tallest featherweight in the division. I know your guy in the division's Nick Ball. I know that. All right. I love Nick Ball too. I just don't see him getting past that long jab. How tall is this guy?
He's up there, man. What's he like?
He's a 6-footer. I think he's
6'1". He's 6'1", man. He's like my height.
Yeah, he's 6
foot. My height.
He's
weighs about as much as one of my legs, and he's my height.
That's my guy at 126. And as much as I like Robeisy Ramirez, I've been accused of being a bias towards the Cuban fighters.
Well, you are biased towards the Cuban fighters, but you know what? It's okay.
But I'm
Nothing
going to
wrong
show
with
you
that.
something right now. My bias doesn't extend into this fight. I see Rafael Espinoza doing a very similar, if not more, than what he did in the previous fight. Talk to me about this fight and your views of the 126-pound landscape, Joe.
So the problem with this fight is you got a tall, long guy that obviously knows how to use the jab, and he's really good from the outside. But here's another issue. He's also a pretty solid inside fighter too. Even though he's got them long arms, he knows how to shorten up those shots on the inside. And one beautiful thing is he knows how to make himself small on the inside, because some of the criticisms of taller fighters that fight on the inside, they stand straight up and they give you that long torso, and they don't, actually crouch down and make themselves a small target on the inside. This guy Espinosa is very, very well schooled in being able to fight on the outside and the inside. The problem with Robesi here is this guy is a kind of in and out guy, but he also likes to counterpunch, and he's not really a guy who plants his flag on the inside. He's not a guy who likes to kind of stay in the pocket long. So when you got a guy who's going to come to you, you can catch him coming in because you got that long jab, right? And he's great at timing Espinosa. But then when you got Ramirez, who likes to step back out and reset, or step back out and set a trap, he's going to anticipate being out of range, but it's going to be hard to get fully out of range when you got that long jab being able to reach you. So you're going to have to exert a lot of energy and move even further out, right? Which takes you out of position, because you're going to have to go, that's going to make you have to come further in, which is going to exert more energy for you to reset. So because this guy can catch you coming and he can catch you going, and because you're going to have to exert a lot of energy just to get out of range, and you're going to take yourself so far out of range that it's going to take a lot of effort and energy and distance and space to get back in range. This is going to be problematic for him, right? And you're dealing with a guy who can match you in hand and foot speed as well. So no matter where you go in this ring, if you're Ramirez, you're never out of danger. You're always within striking distance, right? So that's going to be a problem for him.
Yeah,
it would be one thing if the guy was a touch slower than you. It would be one thing if the guy wasn't able, because look at that picture right there. You're seeing him being able to roll that shoulder and then shoot that uppercut right through the gloves, right?
Bro, look.
A lot of tall guys can't do that.
I don't know about you, because we weren't really talking boxing. We didn't know each other when Diego Chico Corrales was at his peak.
Yeah.
But I used to love it when Diego Chico Corrales, a guy who a lot of people are like, well, why doesn't he just box and move? Why doesn't he just work behind a long jab and keep it on the outside? No, he get in on the inside, bend his legs a little bit, move his waist a little bit, right? Slip shots, block, right? And go to work. There's a beauty to inside fighting, and that beauty extends to when you see tall guys being able to do it, right? I mean, one of the best fights I saw when I was a kid growing up was obviously Holyfield Bo, right? And we saw Riddick, Big Daddy Bo, who at that time was a big heavyweight, right? Get in on the inside and go to work just like you are right there. And Rafael Espinoza has some Diego Chico Corrales in him. He's got some Riddick, Big Daddy Bo in him. He's willing to slightly bend the knees, right? Work at angles, get in on the inside, and go to work. And I think he's only gotten better since that majority decision win against Ramirez. Look at what he did to Sergio Cherino in that last fight. That fight was actually supposed to be a competitive fight. He walked in there and destroyed dude. So that's actually the fight I'm very looking much forward to. But let's look at more generally at the landscape real quick before we go to the main event. 126 is a great division, right? I hope they don't succumb to the Inoue lottery phenomenon, the Inoue sweepstakes. You heard a lot of these guys at 126 talking about Inoue. Don't focus on Inoue. Focus on each other, because I would love to see Turkey or somebody else interested in and around this division. I know he's very interested in Nick Ball, Frank Warren's fighter. I'd love to see the winner of this fight take on Nick Ball in a unification fight. What are your thoughts on 126?
Well, if there was ever a division where you could reincarnate a Super Six tournament, this is where that would be at right now, because you got everybody. You got Espinosa, you got Ramirez, you got Nick Ball. Now you got you still got Stephen Fulton up here.
Yes, Stephen Fulton's moving up. He's taking on Brandon Figueroa in a rematch at 126.
You got, like you said, you got Figueroa back here. So and if Inoue does come up here, none of these guys are a walk in the park either.
No, not at all. Not at all.
You still got, you got Ray Vargas,
Angelo Leo, who had that big win, right?
You got another guy that we like too. Rais Alim is still there, lurking in the shadows. There's a lot of guys.
Bruce Carrington has been making noise.
Shoot, great too, man. He had a tough one in his last one, but he had to dig down deep, and he, did what he had to do.
Yeah,
but so even though my guy is Nick Ball, it's not a given that this guy could just run the division. I mean, there's a lot of styles out there that would be intriguing. They would be intriguing matchups because of, you got a guy like Ball, who's a great inside fighter himself, but the thing about him is he's just so quick.
Yes,
very quick.
His feet are tremendously fast to get in and out.
It's going to be interesting to see if Espinosa would be able to time him coming in, and if Nick Ball would be able to get underneath that jab, be so low that Espinosa would have to reach down, and in reaching down, leave himself open up top. Because Nick Ball is very unorthodox sometimes too, because he can kind of throw that right hand over the top, like pull it out of his back pocket and come over the top with it, like Tim Bradley. He has that right hand like Tim Bradley used to have. Tim Bradley would just kind of like pull it and come like way over the top, and his opponent just couldn't see because it was coming from such a bizarre angle, such an unorthodox punch the way it's thrown, and then he would dip while he threw it, and then he'd just come over the top. So when you dip, force your opponent to kind of lower his eyes, and then that's where that looping shot comes over the top. So Nick Ball hits you with those shots that you're saying to yourself, how is he landing these shots? But it's just because they're coming from such unorthodox angles, and he's being able to squeeze them off in positions where you wouldn't anticipate him being able to do so. So that's why this guy is just so hard to deal with, even though he's like very short and compact. But that can also be an advantage to him because he's so hard to hit, because he's so small. He's giving you nothing to throw at. So
comment from you before we move on to the main event.
Yeah,
very quick one. Fighter here out of the United States, Raymond Ford, took on Nick Ball in Saudi. That's where Ford lost his title. A lot of people, I'm not one of them, were using the word robbery. So we'll just clear the air. We're both in agreement on that. No robbery in that fight. The right man won, correct?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the decision in that fight at all.
Yeah, I never understood the controversy about it. Okay, so look, main event. All right, Joe, I've been a big fan of Emmanuel Navarrete, El Vaquero, okay? The cowboy. He went up. He fought Dennis Perenchik in his last fight. He moved up from 130 as the WBO champion to take on Dennis Perenchik for what was then the interim title at 135. Look, as much as I am a fan of El Vaquero, he just looked soft. He looked like he didn't put on weight the right way. It wasn't his best performance. He ended up losing a split decision. I don't remember how you had that fight, Joe, against Perenchik.
I thought he lost.
Yeah.
I thought Perenchik won the fight.
Yeah. So now he's going back down to 130, and he's taking on Oscar Valdez in a rematch of a fight that he's won quite convincingly, obviously. Talk to me about your thoughts on this fight. you know, your excitement about it? And B, do you think this goes any different than it did the first time?
Valdez said he wasn't at his best, but the fight was very wide last time. I think I gave Valdez like 3 rounds. I had it like 9-3. So if he's at his best, right? Because both guys have had ups and downs. You could argue both guys are on the slide, but I would argue Valdez is probably a little bit further along on that slide, in my opinion. And the problem with Valdez is when he can't be the boss in there, and I don't think he can be the boss against a Navarrete, a big, strong guy himself. You can argue he's probably a little bit more refined in terms of the skill department. The shots are a little bit shorter, crisper, more compact. But you got a guy in Navarrete who doesn't stop. You got a guy who has a bit more volume. You have a guy that, as the fight goes on, his energy level increases. Where with Valdez, he's a little bit more economical, right? And it takes him a little bit more time to get set, takes him a little more time to get in range, and he doesn't have the quickest feet. And Navarrete doesn't have the quickest feet either, but he's got longer strides. So he can get there quicker because of his longer legs. He doesn't have to move as much, whereas Valdez has to move a lot to get close. He has to exert the energy, right? And when you're exerting a lot of energy, and we've seen Valdez fade down the stretch, we've seen it, right? 130 has not always been kind to Valdez either. He's been at this division for a while now. And so when you think about this, right, you have to say to yourself, the other guy won very wide last time. So even if Valdez comes in a little bit better, okay, so the fight's closer. Does that mean he wins it? So my argument would be, okay, this could be a bit more competitive than the first fight, but even if a better Valdez shows up, is that going to be enough to get him over the edge? Is that going to be enough to tip him over the top here? I'm going to say no.
I agree. I agree with you 100%. I think the move up to 135 was a bridge too far for El Vaquero. Let's not forget that he fought at 122 pounds at one point, right? And he's moved up. Like I said, he looked pudgy, body composition wise. There was a lot of excess body fat. We all saw it during the weigh-in. We all saw it during the fight. And I got to say something else, because I was actually at this fight card in Arizona. I'm talking about the one that took place the same night. No, the night before Tim Tszju's fight in Vegas, that fateful night for Tim Tszju where he got busted up real bad and was bleeding. The night before that was Oscar Valdez against Liam Wilson in Arizona. And I got to be honest with you, Liam Wilson was having some moments in that fight. I think that really what happened there is tactically they just got it all wrong. And we were talking about earlier about Hitchens tonight. There's going to be a point in the fight where he has to take a stand and just trade.
He's going to be forced to,
because he was forced to. To me, and you can tell me if you saw something different, because I actually never ended up watching this fight back on TV. I still have only seen what I saw live. I felt like Liam Wilson decided to do that when he really never even had to, or was really forced into it. I felt like he should have really taken a bit more time boxing and moving before doing what he did, and then he ended up getting knocked out. Talk to me about your thoughts. Go.
Did you ever see that movie? Obviously, you have The Fast and the Furious.
Yeah. When
the guy was racing the Asian guy, and he put his pink slip on the line, and they would tell him, "Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it." So they both racing, and he gets ahead, right?
Yeah.
And then the Asian guy looks over to him and says, "Too soon, Junior," and he hits the nitros. That was kind of like what Oscar Valdez did to Liam Williams. He's like, you had your way with me early, but you're getting a little greedy here. He got a little greedy here. You didn't pace yourself, and eventually, when it comes down to it, you want to go punch for punch for me, or you want to even gamble with me. I got the bigger guns here. I got I got the Magnum 44 and you got the 38. So we can go bullet for bullet here, figuratively, I have to say, because I don't want to get in trouble.
Of
So
course.
we can go bullet for bullet here, figuratively, but my caliber is a lot bigger than yours. So that's the case. So
yeah, and look, it boils down to this. And by the way, I'm picking Navarrete in this fight for those who haven't been able to ascertain that yet. I'm picking Navarrete, and the reason to me is pretty straightforward. He dominated the first fight, and the overweight, pudgy, soft Navarrete that lost a close fight to
it was
to Dennis Berenchik, the current
Berenchik eked that out. Berenchik eked that out.
That guy beats the Oscar Valdez that I saw live beat Liam Wilson. That's what I see.
Even at his worst, at his worst, he loses narrowly.
Yes. At his worst, he lost a close fight.
Yes.
You know, like I said, pudgy, soft, overweight.
That's right.
That guy still beats Oscar Valdez. And so that's who I'm going with. Joe, we're both excited, right? Because 2 weeks from now,
I know, this is incredible.
Just 2 weeks from now,
right,
we have a rematch of a fight that took place earlier this year between the Gypsy King, Tyson Fury, okay, and Alexander Usyk for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. The rematch is 2 weeks away. It's taking place in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. You're excited about it. I'm excited about it. I'm sure all of the people are that are watching us live or who are watching us on demand are excited about it. I'm going to let you lead on this one. Go for it. Talk to us.
Well, the odds are close once again. Fury's a plus 140. Usyk's like a minus 170. So this is a real tight fight. And I love to go back to the first fight. And it may sound like I'm playing the woulda, coulda, shoulda game here, but I'm really not, because this is for the purpose of just data. Looking at this data, and by looking at this data and analyzing this data, it gives me foresight into what I think is going to happen in the next fight. So we go back and we look at that first fight and we see the first 7 rounds. And I'm looking at the first 7 rounds, and as I'm watching the fight, the live odds are being posted, right? And after round 7, Tyson Fury was a minus 1,000, right? People were texting me, telling me, and these are people that even picked Usyk to win before the fight. They're texting me, telling me this fight is over. He's getting stopped, meaning Usyk, right?
Yeah.
So then round 8 comes along, and Usyk lands the punch to the nose, and the nose is bloody, and we're like, okay, that's a little hiccup there. But then Fury goes back to his corner at the end of the round, and it looks like they have the cut under control, right? But then round 9 happens, and as Usyk calls it, and I think Tyson Fury called it this as well, the punch from God lands. And that punch was a beautiful shot, full credit, but it landed perfectly on Fury's temple.
The temple.
And that's usually the sweet. I don't care who the fuck you are. The nerve endings and you know the anatomy of everything involved that's in that area. That's a shut off switch, right? The neurons just shut down. The electrons stop firing, and for a brief second, that portion of the brain just gets shut off and the legs go to spaghetti. I don't care who you are, right? And that's what happened. It landed perfectly in the temple. And that's when the fight turned, and it took Fury a good 2.5 rounds to get his leg back. And I think he came back and won the 12th round, right?
Let me ask you this real quick. Did he get greedy?
I thought he got a bit complacent, right? I don't even want to say he got greedy, right? So my question I have is, if that punch, and again, this is a woulda, coulda, shoulda, and it's a what if, but it's a big what if. If that punch doesn't land in that spot in the 9th round, and that 9th round doesn't happen, because keep in mind, I only had Fury losing by a point, right? Would have been a draw if it wasn't a 10-9 round there.
Well, you know how I had it.
And you could have. It's not. It's
By the way, for the record, guys, my scorecard and Joe's scorecard were the same except for one round.
Yeah. I mean, if you flip round 2 to Fury, which is not impossible to do,
I gave round 2 to Fury.
Then you can even have Fury winning by a point. But so I guess what I'm saying here is, can you envision a fight where round 9 doesn't happen? And if that's the case, then Fury wins. So let me tell you what I think happened here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I said before the fight, because Fury is very versatile. He can do a lot of things. And one thing I did say was the uppercut was going to be a key punch in the fight, because even though Usyk is an in and out ambush fighter, he loves to change levels. And when he goes down, that's where when he comes in and he goes down, that's where Fury can shoot that uppercut up and underneath, right? So Fury was the counterpunch guy, but I think one mistake he made here is when you're fighting that in and out ambush guy. It's okay to take that step back when he's coming forward, right? To create space and catch him coming in. But when that guy goes back out to reset, you got to follow him. And Fury didn't follow him. So if Fury follows him when he goes back out to reset and keeps a sustained pressure on him, and continues to go to the body like he did in the first fight, because if body shots were hurting him, then he can have more success. And another thing too is when the guy's changing levels, go back to the Foreman Frazier fight. Remember Frazier going up and down, bobbing and weaving, and constantly changing levels. You see what Foreman did with the open glove? He extended the arm and he had the open glove and he posted Frazier. And when Frazier was going down, he would post him.
He almost lifted him off the ground.
He would extend his hand. He would extend his hand, and he would put it on Frazier's forehead, and he would keep him down like that to kind of contain him, to prevent it from bobbing and weaving. And then he would lift it up when he wanted Frazier to come up, and he would time him, and then he would shoot the right hand after that. So if Fury can also post Usyk on the outside before he comes in while he's dipping down, right? And just hold him there and post him and then lift it up when he wants Usyk to pop up and kind of control the level change, right? Let him control the level change by extending the lead hand and posting him on the top of his head, right? He can control Usyk that way as well, too, on the outside. So there are some adjustments.
I just put this up here, Joe. Basically here, Usyk's broken the guard, essentially. And he's been allowed to
look what's happening here.
Yeah.
Look where Fury's lead hand is here. If Fury's lead hand
on the outside, what you're saying is it should be on the inside.
So Fury keeps that lead hand in front of him and posts Usyk sticks it on Usyk's forehead and just posts him right there, right? That's a different. Not only that, by doing that, see where Usyk's arm is? So if he does this, Usyk's right arm will be hitting the shoulder, right? While Fury is posting him straight up the middle. So that's the thing. So Fury makes that adjustment, right? Then that's going to be a little bit of a problem for Usyk. I understand people in the chat and they have their opinions, but you have to understand one thing. 3 professional judges all gave Fury the 12th round, right? So I had Usyk winning the fight by a point. But to say Usyk clearly won this fight, I'm going to have to disagree.
Especially as you said, if you remove that ninth round from the equation. And look, to bring in Big George Foreman, people who have followed my channel, you guys can go check it out tonight. Today we're on Ringside Reporter Live. Yeah. I've spoken many times about how much I enjoyed listening to Big George Foreman as a commentator when I was a kid. And by the way, it wasn't just about the back and forth between him and Larry Merchant, which was ongoing. And, it would be funny because Larry would say something and you could hear George Foreman like responding to it. And it was clear that like he didn't oftentimes agree with what Larry Merchant was saying. But one last thing and then go.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the tidbits, and I use this now in my teaching, that George Foreman, a gem that he dropped was, you just got to throw and you got to touch something, touch the shoulder, touch the glove, touch the chest. It doesn't always need to be clean to the head. And I think Tyson Fury would benefit from some of that. Look,
sure,
just keep touching him, touch the shoulder, because Fury, timing and range is going to be key in this fight, and you gain that by working that lead hand and keeping the other opponent having to reset, move, think, make adjustments, all with that lead hand control. Go for it, Joe.
Again, Tony has a point. I mean, you could look at it, me being overly simplistic. That's fine if you want to look at it that way. But I thought I was pretty thorough in the explanation. Just because I have a theory doesn't mean the theory is correct. But I'm pretty confident my theory will be correct because it usually is. But here's the thing. And this isn't demeaning to Usyk because Usyk has one style. Now, that one style has a lot of nuance to it because of the level change, because of the angles. But Usyk is a mid-range, in and out fighter. That doesn't change. Look where he is right there. That's mid-range. He's in, right?
That's also where he had his success against AJ.
Mid-range.
That's also where he had his success against Dubois, right?
So we've seen Fury win fights in multiple ways with different styles, right? We've seen that happen. So I think Usyk can't do any better than what he did, but I think Fury can do better than what he did. So Fury was good and Usyk was better on the night, but I don't think Usyk can be any better, but I do think Fury can be better. So that's the thing. So you can argue that Fury, lost every round after the 8th, but Maestro, myself, 3 judges. I mean, I think you should only be responsible for your scorecard and just say it's my opinion. Well, because when we start saying things like you can only do this, only do that, then we start running into the realm because if you remember, Hamid, a lot of people were saying those same things with Haney and Lomachenko. We're saying you can only give Haney 5 rounds when you and I gave Haney 7. So the whole thing of you can only do this, you can only do that. No, maybe you can only do that, but other people can do other things if they feel that they want to. So again, this fight was a close fight, and that's the odds are reflective of that in the rematch. If you're a minus 170 and the other guy's a minus 140, that's virtually another pick 'em again. And even if you had the fight 6-6 or if you had it 7-5, that's a competitive close fight. So does that mean automatically for instance, if Lomachenko if there was a Haney Lomachenko rematch, right?
I disagree with Iceman, by the way, just to let you know. I was at the fight and then I went back and rewatched.
Let me just finish the point. So if there was a Lomachenko Haney rematch, the odds would be close again. And then it'd be split down the line 50-50 on who would win. So it is what it is.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting. No,
okay.
This fight was like so controversial for some reason. I mean, I was there live at the MGM Grand. I had Haney winning it. Yeah. Joe watched it on TV. Joe actually suggested I watch the fight back, which I did when and I actually had it wider on second watch. So quickly before we get to the next card, we've got an undercard here. I mean, I think the fight most people are going to be looking forward to is Israel Madrimov against Sergey Bohachuk. I'm always excited to see the Queensbury heavyweight prospect Moses Itauma, the 19-year-old. He's taking on Dempsey McKean. We've got Johnny Fisher in a fight against a fellow Englishman and Dave Allen. Dennis McCann, Peter McGrail, Isaac Lowe, Lee McGregor. The fights I'm most interested in, to be quite honest, are the main event, the co-main, and the Moses Itauma fight. Anybody there you want to talk about from the undercard, Joe?
Tom was always interesting to watch, and it's going to be fun watching his career move forward. Johnny Fisher, David Allen, that's a great fight too. They're all solid matchups, to be honest with you. And I think Dempsey McKean is going to be a little bit of a test for Tamu, but he's crafty, and we've seen him have some moments in fights against guys who are heavy favorites over him, but he hangs in there, so it'll be interesting. But I do love the main event. I do love that main event there.
The main event sells itself, and what's amazing is that Israel Madrimov is scheduled for 2 consecutive Riyadh cards. I mean, that is insane. Let's go to Hamed. Hamed just jumped on to join us. Hamed, what are your thoughts before we get to the final fight card? 2 fight cards rather of 2024 that we're really interested in. Go for it, Hamed.
I don't understand the Haney thing as well. I'm surprised that so many people, there's actually people whose opinions I respect, like guys like Steve Kim, Montero, even Nacho. All these guys had Loma winning, and I initially did have Haney winning live. I thought maybe I gave Haney around that. Maybe, I was being a bit generous. But then when I rewatched it, I had the same scorecard. And I thought that was a fight. I can't really argue too much if people had Loma winning 7-5, or it was a draw, or even 7-5 to Haney. But I thought that was a classic close fight, which could have literally went either way. I just thought Loma kind of took his foot off the gas in the last round. And I thought he lost a lot of the early rounds where I think the ESPN commentary were giving him more credit than he probably deserved. And that was a pro-Loma crowd, and I think a lot of people wanted Loma to win. But that was a fight I literally thought that could have went either way. So when the fight finished and the decision was announced, I was shocked, literally. Like, this was one of the fights where I did not see the robbery claim. And I'm not, sure what people were watching or even paying attention to, because to me, when this happened with the first Golovkin Canelo fight, or Kovalev Ward, even Castano Chalo, I could understand. And I thought all those fights, if not the wrong guy won, I thought it was controversial, and I could understand why those fights had that reaction. But this fight I thought was close. Regarding Fury Usyk, I did rewatch the fight. I don't think it was as close as I initially thought. And I thought the DAZN commentary was being biased towards Fury. But I did think Fury was winning, or had all the momentum after seven rounds.
1 second right there, because we got to pause on that one. You're literally the first person I've ever heard say that the DAZN commentary crew was biased towards Fury.
I didn't need to watch. I watched it live on Sky Sports.
Okay.
One second. I thought Barry Jones, Darren Barker, and all these guys were giving Fury more credit than when I was rewatching the fight, because I didn't watch it live on DAZN. I watched on Sky. I thought they weren't giving Usyk enough credit. Apart from, I think, Chris Mannix and maybe Mike Costello, who were just calling the fight. The rest of them, I thought they were literally just cheerleading for Fury.
Cheerleading.
I didn't see that. No, I did not see that.
I don't know if you guys have listened or rewatched the commentary on DAZN. At times they were doing a good job, but I thought the DAZN commentary didn't have a good night. That's not to say it wasn't a competitive fight or arguably close, if that's what you were seeing. I just thought they were kind of pulling for Fury. As commentators, I don't think you should do that. The DAZN are not the only ones. I thought ESPN were doing the same for Loma in the Haney fight, the ESPN commentator. I didn't even watch it on ESPN. I just seen highlights of it because I watched it on Sky. And then I watched the highlights on ESPN. And then I was thinking, now I know why people.
So that
were si-
basically, Hamed, when you were seeing those guys, you were hearing and seeing this, right? I mean, they were just cheerleading out there, right? That's it, cheerleading for Fury. I don't know. I don't remember that, Joe. But you tell me what you thought.
Um, I don't know,
Lot,
man.
lot of cheerleading going on at the zone for Fury.
I think once Usyk landed that punch in the 8th round, I mean, everyone was saying, "Wow, look what he did! What a punch! What a comeback!" Because everyone was thinking that he was going to get like stopped after round 7. You know, he would look like he was hurt after round 7. He was taking deep breaths and stuff. So, you have to understand that Fury went on a run. I thought he won 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Some people gave round 3 to Usyk. So even going on a run of 4, 5, 6, and 7, right? That's a 4-round run.
Yeah, it wasn't even those rounds.
How are you not gonna be like on Fury at that point when he just won 4 rounds in a row, Ahmed?
They were doing it before those rounds, I thought. I rewatched it. I thought the first was close. I thought third, I give it to Usyk. Live, I gave Fury the third.
You see what you just said?
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say, no, the first round. But I thought round 2 and 3, Usyk won. And even then, I didn't think the commentary was great. When I watched on Sky, I think the Sky...
You can't see anyone giving round 2 or 3 to Fury.
Not round 2. Round 3, Chris Mannix gave it to him, so I'll concede that I gave it to him live as well. The thing I had a problem with round 1, I think Usyk did land a very good shot at the end, but to me, Fury...
the first 2 rounds. I gave Usyk the first 2 rounds, and then I gave Fury 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, right?
Yeah.
And then I gave him round 12. Now, this whole thing about there's no way Fury can win round 12. A lot of people gave Fury round 12.
I also give it to him generously live, but on rewatch, I think Fury did better in round 1 than round 12. If I'm being honest.
But here's the thing, Hamid. Let's just put yourself in the real world, and you're a judge on the night. You were hired to work that fight, right? What was your original card on the night?
I had a 115, 112, but I gave Fury the round 12 generously, and I even put that down because I thought...
Who did you give round 3 to? Who'd you give round 3 to?
Round 3, I gave it to Fury. So basically, live, I gave round 1, and I think one of the other rounds to Usyk. Basically, 2 of the rounds I switched it over.
How do you have it 115 and 113? So
115, 112, sorry.
How do you have it 115 and 112? Because if you give rounds 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 to Fury, and you gave round 12, that's 6-6.
Yeah, I put down 6-6 or 7-5, but I think my real scorecard was 7-5.
No, because you just said did you give round 3 to Fury when you watched it live?
No, round 12 was the contentious one because I generously gave it to him because I thought he already lost it.
How many did you give rounds 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 to Fury on the first watch?
Yeah, live round 3, 4, 5, 6. On rewatch, I didn't give Fury round 3 though. That was the only.
Okay, but did you give him round 7 on the original watch?
Yeah, 7 was clear Fury. I don't know what.
Right, so you had it 6. So on the original watch, you had it 6-6, not 7-5.
But my scorecard, if I was going 7-5 one way or the other, I thought Usyk went 7-5.
No, but you had it.
I did.
Listen to what I'm saying. Round 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 5 rounds, and then you said you gave him round 12.
But I don't think you won round 12 though.
I know, but on your original watch, you said you did, but then you went back and watched it again and did some mental gymnastics, and you had to switch it.
Even live, I don't doubt.
But you said you intentionally gave it to him.
Yeah, I gave it to him because he had already lost the fight on my card unless he scored a knockdown. So I just thought I'd give it. That was literally my reason. Literally, because I thought, he's already lost the fight. Because look. I thought Fury was boxing very well, but round 8, 9, 10, and 11, I thought he clearly lost those rounds. And that's where I thought he lost the fight. So the rematch, I think, is a different fight, though. If Fury comes in heavy, I do think he's capable of winning this. But for me, I think he has to be more aggressive. I don't know what you guys think.
He's going to be more aggressive. I talked to him. I FaceTimed him last week. You're going to see a lot of changes in this fight.
Ahmed, we'll bring you back. I know.
Yeah, I gotta go. I gotta go. I was just gonna say one thing.
You gotta do.
Alhamdulillah, man.
Alhamdulillah. You got to do salat over there. I don't know if it's Dur or Asr. What time is it?
Yeah. I just want to say one thing.
Okay.
It's 2 weeks out. Do you guys reckon this ends in a knockout?
Fury's going to stop him in the rematch.
What about you, Maestro?
If there is a stoppage, I think it will be a late round stoppage. And right now, I'm hedging between late round stoppage or decision victory for Usyk. I'm gonna make my final prediction the week of the fight. But I'm picking, sorry, a Fury. I'm picking Fury in this fight. But we'll open it up for you again, Hamed. All right.
All right.
I had Usyk winning the first fight by a point, just so everyone knows. I had it 6-6 in rounds. I had Usyk winning by a point.
Okay, so there you have it. We have talked about Usyk and Fury. There is another card though that's taking place later this year for all of you fight fans. And I'm talking, of course, about Inoue versus Sam Goodman. You know, a lot of people were expecting this fight to take place earlier this year. Joe, Inoue ended up taking on TJ Doheny in a fight that ended. It looked like he hit him so hard that he broke his back. I mean, remember the famous Mike Tyson when he said spinal. Well, it looked like TJ Doheny had some spinal issues.
That's right.
After that fight, December 24th, Christmas Eve. All right, La Noche Buena in Spanish. We've got a fight card out of Japan. What a Christmas gift! Fury Usyk 2, or I should say Usyk Fury 2. Then Inoue Goodman the night before Christmas. I'm expecting nothing short of a solid effort by Goodman, but I don't think he's gonna be the guy that does what Nonito did, the last guy to do it, which is to take Inoue 12 rounds. Talk to me about it, Joe. Is this the guy at 122 that could potentially trouble Inoue? I don't see it. Maybe somebody else sees it. Talk to me.
Yeah, I don't see it. You know, Inoue never takes anybody lightly. Everyone's a threat to Inoue the way he approaches these fights. And even though he's a knockout puncher, he's very methodical. You know, he knows how to break these guys down. He makes adjustments. You may catch him slipping on one time here, one time there, but he always figures you out. And he's just a hard guy to decipher, if you really think about it, because this guy is another guy who's multifaceted, another guy who knows how to just create openings, another guy who has great instincts in there. So I don't think Goodman's going to be the guy to crack the code. So it's going to be hard to go against Inoue here. Inoue is a heavy favorite for a reason, and I think he'll get the stoppage against Goodman.
Yeah, I'm thinking the exact same thing. I don't see this guy being the guy to trouble Inoue. I think that a lot of the reason this fight was delayed was actually on the Goodman side. You know, because they had an opportunity to take this fight earlier. Maybe they needed preparation. Maybe there were some injuries they were dealing with. He's a solid fighter. All right. Both of us were pretty high on Raees Aleem at one point, and he did beat Raees Aleem.
I'll give him credit for that.
Right. So I give him credit for that, but Inoue's on a higher level. Inoue's the undisputed guy. Inoue's, to me, already beaten guys better than Goodman. Now the question for me is, after this fight, what are we looking at? Nurmagomedov fight? You know, there are people talking about you know, potential fights with other people. If you're in the way, what do you do? You stay at 122? Do you move up to 126? Do you try to get that Japanese super fight? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the Nakatani fight is very intriguing. at 122, and you got two fights. You got at 122, you got two fights. You got Nakatani and you got Akhmadaliev. And I think he beats Akhmadaliev, but the Nakatani fight is intriguing. I think Nakatani has a shot. I would still favor Inoue, but I think that would be Inoue's toughest fight at 122 up until this point, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I wouldn't mind seeing Nakatani plant his flag a little bit longer at 118. He actually hasn't fought at 118 that long. It wasn't that long ago that he was a 115-pounder when he scored that unbelievable knockout of the year knockout on the undercard of Loma and Haney. That was at 115, and that was against another Australian fighter, of course, in Maloney. So I don't mind seeing him stay a little longer at 118. You know, collect a couple belts. It's going to be a big fight eventually, but I think we're both in agreement. We have this fight clearly going to Inoue. But it is something to look forward to. It is an undisputed fighter fighting at the end of the year. And to close things out, a lot of us, unfortunately, weren't able to watch this particular fight live the first time. It was a really good fight. I always hope, going into New Year's Eve, that some platform picks up Kazuto Ioka, because he has a rematch. Again, he's fighting on December 31st against Puma Martinez. This is at 115 pounds, a super hot division. It also features Jesse Bam Rodriguez. And I would love the winner of this fight on December the 31st to take on Jesse Bam Rodriguez, a fighter who I just saw recently in Philadelphia on the Boots undercard, Joe. And look, right, I used to have Kazuto Ioka as my number one. I now have Bam as my number one. Talk to me about Ioka. Talk to me about Puma Martinez. Talk to me about Bam and the landscape, the picture at 115. What do you like?
I just think at this point, Bam is head and shoulders above everybody else. Ioka's a good guy, but the problem is Bam is just so explosive. He's so quick. He's a smart fighter, and I think he's cagey too, and he's more skilled. He's skilled way beyond his years, and I just think everyone else is a notch below him in this division. So that doesn't mean I wouldn't welcome an Ioka fight, but I just don't think that Ioka is quick enough. I don't think he's dynamic at all enough to beat a guy like Bam. He's a solid fighter, right? He's a tough as nails fighter. Another guy who likes to battle it out on the inside.
I think he's a future Hall of Famer, personally, based on his record and his accomplishments, his titles in multiple weight classes. I know it's going to be close, but yeah, I think if he wins this rematch, he gets into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, the problem here is, though, in these lower, you know how tough it is with these lower weight classes. You have to really stand out, right, to really get into the Hall of Fame. And maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But, you know, it's tough, because I know a lot of Americans are biased towards the American fighters, and a lot of the foreign fighters don't get in. Like, we look at this recent class. What do you have? Vinny Paz got in, Manny Pacquiao got in, and who else got in? Michael Nunn, right? Michael. Now, you can argue, obviously, Manny Pacquiao's a worldwide, he's a legend. Even though he's not American, all of his fights were in America, right? Mm-hmm. Ioka doesn't fight in America. Fights overseas, so people don't know him. People don't.
We don't even get to watch his fights. His last fight at Puma was a great fight for everyone. Anyone who hasn't seen it, go back and watch it.
Sure. And you can argue that's unfair, and it probably is. But because of that, that's why he may not get in the Hall of Fame. But I could be wrong. But Bam's on DAZN. All his fights are televised. He's an American fighter. He's got a very explosive, dynamic style, right? So people are going to get behind Bam more so than they'll probably get behind a guy like Ioka. You know?
Yeah, I
Ioka's more of a meat and potatoes guy. Bam is kind of a flashy dynamic guy. So unfortunately, because of that, Aoki could continue to fly under the radar. But credit to you for keeping his name out there, talking about him, and hopefully that'll rub off on some of the other boxing fans.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, Joe, if Puma ends up winning the rematch out there in Tokyo, this is not hyperbole. This is straight from my mouth to your phones, tablets, TVs, computers, whatever. Bam versus Ioka would be the most exciting fight that can be made in the sport of boxing. I can't think of a more exciting fight than Bam versus Puma Martinez. Puma Martinez is always in exciting fights. Bam, exciting fights. He's dynamic, right? He can punch. He's arguably got some of the best. I think it's not even arguably. He's got some of the best footwork in the game. The way he can attack you at angles. You put him in there with Puma Martinez. I can't think of a more exciting fight to make in the sport of boxing. So moving on, though, that's the end of 2024. 2025 is already off to a great start, and it's off to a great start, Joe, because of Riyadh season in Turkey, Al Sheikh. Better be Bivol, Dubois Parker, Stevenson Schofield, Adames Shiraz, Ortiz Jr., Madrimov, who, by the way, will be doing that fight after taking on Sohaib Bohachuk. Boy, does he believe in himself.
David Benavidez, David Morrell.
Yeah. Boati Smith, Zhang Caballo. What a big start of the year. So not only do we close out 2024 on such a high note, we start 2025 on that plateau. Talk to me, Joe. Go for it.
Yeah, we're coming out of the gates pretty strong. We're on fire. And the good thing, too, is a lot of these cards and a lot of these events, the winners can fight each other and there'll be great fights, right? So you got David Benavidez Morrell can fight the winner of Bivol Beterbiev, right? And even if you take the losers fighting each other would be a great fight and could be a main event on a card as well. So you can mix and match these guys, and you have a buffet of fights for next year, man. So that's the great thing. So, depending upon how things shape out, who wins, who loses, you could have rematches if the fights are competitive. You can, like I said, have these unofficial round robin series. So I think 2025 could even be better than this year, right? Because then, when Fury beats Usyk, then Fury could fight Joshua. Fury could fight Dubois. There could be an undisputed fight for Fury next year. Obviously, there's going to be an undisputed fight, with Beterbiev Bivol. And then you could have David Benavidez probably at some point, if he wins, or David Morrell at some point. You could have him, either one of those guys, fighting the winner. And you can have two undisputed fights in the light heavyweight division, right?
Unbelievable what's going on at the light heavyweight division. I'll tell you who's been left out.
Yeah.
Anthony Yard.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with him, with his
everyone of significance in this division is fighting in big fights. Callum Smith, Boazzi, Morrell, Benavidez, Bivol, and of course Beterbiev. And Anthony Yard is out there on the sidelines. Don't quite know what's going on there, but these are huge fights. And do you see the winner of this fight taking on the winner of the Riyadh season fight? I would love to see it, but I guess if they go 1-1, maybe they do a rematch if Bivol wins or a rubber match fight. I mean, I'm picking Beterbiev. I think he's
Beterbiev for the rematch. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Beterbiev was coming off of inactivity, coming off of an injury, coming off of rehab. none of those things can lead to you having the best performance, and he still won the fight. That wasn't the best version of Beterbiev. He's now coming off this win without a serious injury, without a surgery, without a rehab. If you didn't get him coming off of all of that, I don't see how you're going to get him in the rematch. Personally, I'm going with Beterbiev.
I'm going with Beterbiev, and I think he's going to stop him this time.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm going to pick Beterbiev by stoppage this time.
Yeah, and I'm going to get it. I was actually going to get into this, Rich Porco, because I actually discussed it earlier this week on my own channel. We're getting these huge pay-per-view cards for $19.99, $20, whatever. We're getting the PBC cards for $90. And we've got Tank fighting Lamont Roach as the other major fight card announced of the first quarter of 2025.
Yeah.
This was a fight that I wasn't so excited about, but I was like, okay, yeah, that he needs to fight. He needs to stay active. He needs to get another fight before the end of the year.
Sure.
That's what I was thinking with Tank Roach when it was penciled in for I think it was December, early December.
Yeah.
But then the delay happened, and now it's getting pushed back to March. No semblance of an undercard announced for the fight. The press conference was out here in New York City this week. They did another one in DC. I believe I heard Dave Chappelle on the mic over there at the port of the press conference that I heard. He's obviously a big fight fan. Talk to me about Tank Davis, the fact that this is the fight that's scheduled to take place, and then that now he's also talking about retirement. What do you think, Joe?
Well, the guy's definitely made enough money, I would imagine, where he can retire and he's set for life. I think he invested in some real estate in his local area as well. So he's probably going to be set for the rest of his life if he does all the right things, which I'm anticipating he will. And he's been pretty clear about it. Now, obviously, all fighters fight for the money, but some fighters, focus on it a little bit more than others. Some fighters are willing to take risks. Some fighters do love the competition. And I say this with all due respect. I don't think Tank Davis really loves the competition. I think he loves the money, and that's fine. But the problem is when people kind of call him, not necessarily call him up, but when they assess the situation for what it is, Tank gets angry, gets mad. And people who are Tank fans get mad. And Calix,
we got one in the chat. Tony P. He's a huge fan of Tank Davis. Has made excuses for Tank Davis for years.
Sure. And shout out to Calix Boxing, because he says this all the time. He's like, people want to give Tank credit for fights that he hasn't fought, saying that he would win them anyway.
Yeah.
So he's like basically giving him credit for fantasy fights. But I've said this before, and I'll say it again, and I've said this for a long time, is the PBC does incentivize these guys to not have to take risk, and they pay them pretty well. If you're paying a guy $4 or $5 million twice a year to fight in very low-risk fights, and I say that with all due respect to Lamont Roach, if you do that, then why would he not just continue to follow that blueprint? Why would he not continue to do that? Who wouldn't do that? If you can make anywhere from $8, $10, $15 million a year fighting low risk fights without any fear or concern of losing, then why would you not want to do it?
You see, Tony P used to have a show.
You did not see Bivol hurt. Bivol looked like he was going in round 11. He was like retreating. You didn't see him hurt in round 11? Guys, I don't know what to tell you. I may be in a quantum realm. I may be in an alternate universe. I'm seeing things that I'm being told didn't happen. So I may have to go to the doctors at some point and get a dementia test or some type of psychology test, because I'm probably seeing things that I'm not seeing, according to you guys.
Tony P used to have a show, Joe, called The Breakdown. I don't know what happened.
The breakdown is broken. The breakdown is broken at this point.
I want to know, Tony P, how you broke down that 11th round, because I'll tell you how I broke it down.
He was hurting that 11th
I was worried for Bivol's well-being.
I thought he was going to get stopped in that.
I was wondering if his corner was going to have to make a decision because he was getting busted up and battered in that round. Busted up and battered.
This dude was getting hurt blocking punches. He was getting hurt just blocking punches.
I'm guessing Tony P is no longer a fan of
Tank
Davis. He's not a Tank Davis guy anymore.
Did you resign as the president of the Tank fan club?
He was South London's #1 Tank fan. Maybe all of the UK actually. Anyways,
I thought he loved Tank.
That's my guy, Tony P. Tony P, we need the breakdown, man. Where's the breakdown? I used to love that show. Bring back the breakdown, Tony P. We want the Tony P breakdowns. And the funny thing about Tony P is a lightweight specialist. He was a lightweight.
Tony P is a teacher, man.
So I would, and the teacher.
He's got like 7 master's degrees. This guy's is a genius.
Matter of fact, I got to invite Tony P to Teachers Talking Boxing, Joe's favorite channel on my show.
He's a legitimate teacher, this guy.
Yeah. All right. So there you have it. Look, it's interesting because he's talking about retirement. He's taking on Lamont Roach. There's zero words coming from him in terms of unification fights. He doesn't seem to want to fight Shakur Stevenson. He doesn't even want to seem to fight Dennis Boat. Not Dennis Boat. Baranchik. Baranchik, right? Which I don't know why, because Baranchik wasn't available for late this year, but why couldn't he have made that fight for I don't understand.
He said he's gonna punch Teofimo he's gonna slap Teofimo in the face on site, so that's gonna be fun.
Okay. All right. Well, Teofimo used to live in Brooklyn, no longer does, but is often out in New York City. So it'll be interesting to see if he turns up fight week for that.
That's funny.
Oh, look who's here, my man, my brethren from South London.
Look at the master. Look at the master, the genius.
The teacher. Teach us, brethren.
Gentlemen, what a pleasure to always see and speak with you, with your highly educational views on the boxing game, as you can tell. I love your chat. I love your verbiage. It's incredible.
Thank you very much, Tony. And before we get to the breakdown here, what happened to the breakdown, and are we ever going to get the breakdown again? I used to love
the breakdown. Unfortunately, gentlemen, was the plug was pulled on that, and we are no longer going to see that. Obviously, Base the Kid, who has his own channel, is still full in flight. But you're going to see me. As I said, I love you guys' commentaries. In the different platforms that you work with. I admire your views on the game. And yeah, love the opportunity when I get the chance to have a little chat with you guys and give you some of my own opinions. To which, of course, my opinion of Tank has not changed. I still see him as the matrix of boxing. He seems to have this ability to just work out how to beat fighters. Now, of course, having a huge punch is a great benefit to him, but you still have to have a delivery mechanism, and you have to have the smarts and the know-how and he has that in abundance. And it's for that very reason that I've often said, and you know this, Maestro, I see Tank as being potentially the best lightweight that we have seen for many years, including the likes of Shakur Stevenson, Lomachenko. And I love Lomachenko, by the way. I've seen him twice live. Let
me ask you this. Prime Tank versus Sugar Shane Mosley at 135. That's a good fight, right?
That's a great fight.
I know you're the king of the lightweights.
Now the interesting thing there is I actually don't rate Sugar Shane Mosley that highly at 135.
Really?
He didn't do that much at 135, Maestro.
Exactly.
I know he didn't, but the flashes that we saw at 135, because don't forget, he jumped up to fight De La Hoya.
Exactly.
Right? And he did that for the bag. Let's be honest. He did that for the bag.
Yeah.
But if anybody wants to go back after this show and watch highlights of Shane Mosley at 135, that was something special.
Yeah. I mean, Shane Mosley has had a great career, you know, but boxing is a subjective sport. And to your point earlier, actually, I did put it in the chat, you know, what we see over here as a US bias towards the Hall of Famers entering into Canastota, we don't see it over here. We have a huge selection of fighters who we see domestically as legends of the game, not least of which is Frank Bruno, who would never go anywhere near a boxing Hall of Fame in any international Hall of Fame. But here in the UK, you've probably experienced it, Maestro, having lived here for a while. How popular that guy. When we talk about the people's champ in the UK, Frank Bruno is up there, like top 3.
Yeah, and
all time.
There's also a reason, regardless of what I think about the fight and what a lot of people out here think about the fight, that Ben and Eubank is such a big fight in the UK. It's because of their fathers.
Well, let's talk about Ben and Eubank, though.
Two men, by the way, that did not get a lot of respect out here in the United States.
Well, let's talk about Ben and Eubank, because they've been on that ballot for multiple times, and they're not in. And I feel bad because I think those two guys are phenomenal fighters.
And I'll tell you something for nothing, Joe. As a boxing trainer here in the UK, I ask my fighters very often, who are your favorite fighters? And even to this day, some of those fighters who are young have no right to be mentioning Nigel Benn. And I still hear his name. Very valid in this country. Very much heralded as a warrior.
That's right.
I don't know if you guys are aware, but Chris Eubank Jr., much like Timothy Bradley Jr., has started his own YouTube channel. It's actually very entertaining. I'm just gonna play 30 seconds here of the trailer to the channel. I think it's very funny, and I want to support the guy's channel, being that he is a legend in the game. So I figured I'd let you guys. Something came up there in the background. Sorry about. Did you guys hear what I just played in the background? Or
I heard it in the background. Yeah, I didn't see anything.
Okay, good. Here, that was from Smith versus Eubank press conference. This is what I actually wanted to play. Here we go. Let's have a look.
Gentlemen, ladies, this is Call Chris Eubank. Voice note on this platform, on this number, and I will answer all your questions. I'm coming back to you quickly, easily, and with knowledge. I'm looking forward to your questions.
Hi, Chris. My question is, which boxers would you take to a bottomless brunch?
Bottomless brunch? Good Lord, man. What are you speaking about?
So that's his channel. That was the trailer to it. If you go to his channel, Call Chris Eubank, he actually, people leave him voice notes and all he does is respond. It's hilarious.
Chris Eubanks in the UK is absolute gold. He's the gift that keeps on giving. When you least expect it, he's going to give you voice notes that will make you crack up for ages. His retorts to people, his mannerisms, his style. You know, look, I don't know if you guys know, I run a bespoke tailoring company. Chris Eubanks is undoubtedly one of the best dressed men in the United Kingdom.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, yes, it's I don't quite know what he's doing with the sheriff's badge, but
he's the sheriff. He was a sheriff. He was a real sheriff. You got to give him credit, man.
He was an honorary sheriff in
Louisiana.
Come on.
If they needed him to do an arrest, he was ready to do it. Come on, give him credit.
Okay, so Maestro,
with a sheriff's badge.
Maestro, just to give you some background on that, here in the UK, again, you guys in the US probably don't know that. Yeah. We can acquire titles very easily. Yeah. I think in US dollars for the price of about $300, you can get a lordship, and you can go the rest of your life known as Lord Maestro. Yeah, and nobody can deny that to you.
Really?
So this whole thing of title,
yeah.
don't knock it. We love it here in the UK. It's a big thing.
It's it's funny because
Tony, I heard you're MBE now, right now. Is that true?
no, it's funny because I used to live in Mexico, and I actually spent 2 different spells in Mexico City. And over there, out of respect, people will always say licenciado to somebody with a degree, maestro to somebody with a master's degree, doctor to somebody with a doctoral degree, like automatic. It's like that's how you acknowledge people and greet them, right? So I respect it, and honestly, that's how I ended up having the channel and the name and my nickname. So I'm all about these titles. I respect the titles. What I don't like about these titles in the UK, they're not earned. They're just bestowed. They're bestowed, right? It's not like you had to study or get a degree to
I'm getting
like
one
in
next
Mexico,
month, man.
right? You just become a lord, a count. Do they have counts in the UK? Maybe not in the UK. I think they have them in continental Europe, but they have lords and what's another one?
Does Eddie Hearn have one?
So you can buy a baronship. So you could be Baron Joe Habib. You know, easy as pie. Just throw your money down and become a baron.
Does Eddie Hearn have one?
I don't believe he does.
Does his dad? I think his dad does. Doesn't his dad?
I think his dad has MBE. I'm pretty
Possibly.
sure. His
Yeah.
dad does. So Tony, end of the year fight cards, beginning of next year fight cards. Which ones you really looking forward to?
Well, I always look forward to Inoue, but easily the rematch between Fury and Usyk has to be, for me, the most exciting fight to look forward to this end of year.
Yeah.
And going forward next year, I mean, I just feel it's too early to mention what might be. You know, you've mentioned already on your show today a number of fights that could be made next year, including Inoue if he gets through his fight. But you know, certainly, you know, Batavia Bivol too. I obviously was there in Riyadh for the first fight. I found that an intriguing matchup. The second fight, I think, is going to be just as close. I'm not really sure if I can, you know, call a Batavia knockout as a possibility, because ultimately we've never seen Bivol hurt. We haven't. So why would we say that, you know, Batavia is going to go into the next fight without the injuries and suddenly knock out a man who we've never seen hurt?
I'm glad you brought that up. And you got a little bit of a smirk there going. Now it's a grin turning into a smile. What are you talking about when you say Bivol was never hurt in that fight? Please explain. It's not computing right here for me right now. What are you talking about? He was busted up, battered, and hurt in that 11th round. What did you go to the loo during that round and return? Like, what happened?
So you can receive a lot of blows, but we are talking about when a punch hits you in a certain force that it renders you slightly unconscious for a small second. And that's what it takes to knock a man down. You need to stun him to the point that he doesn't have control of his senses. And at no point in the fight did Bivol ever lose his senses. Yeah, he gets hurt because he's getting punishment. He's getting hit hard. That's the game of boxing. Yeah, there's plenty of fights where we've seen a guy batter a fella from pillar to post, but that guy never looks like he's ever going down. I mean, I'm a great fan of Julio Cesar Chavez. Chavez could take any punch you could throw at him, and you'd look at some of those punches and think, my God, how is he taking it? That's the same with Bivol. I've never seen him rocked.
Okay, so essentially he wasn't hurt because he wasn't concussed, essentially. So for you, hurt is like you concussed, you don't have your full faculties there.
Exactly.
I took a hard body shot and now I'm in, pain and I'm trying to survive and ride out this round. But I'm writhing in pain, but I'm not concussed. It's a linguistic thing. I got it. But he definitely was getting touched up in that 11th round.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. Question. When it comes to this fight, we got Morel Jr. and Benavidez Who do you favor? Because we have a mutual friend in Danny Glover, Fight Fan TV Live. Right? We had a little debate on my channel. I'm picking Benavidez. Sorry, he's picking Benavidez. I'm picking the Cuban Morel Jr. What and I know Joe's a Benavidez guy as well. All right. Talk to me about how you see this fight.
I'm gonna go with the experience. I think the experience of Benavidez just outweighs the youth and exuberance of David Morrell. I like Morrell. I think he's a very good boxer, but I'm gonna go with the experience of Benavidez, who I feel just has, too much in his locker, a little bit more savvy, and effectively. This could be a long night for David Morrell. I could even see a potential stoppage of David Morrell in the late rounds.
There you go. Last thing we have to talk about, Tony, you can hang out with us for this one. The welterweight division.
Messy.
W-A-I-T, not W-E-I-G-H-T. It's the welterweight because they have us waiting constantly for these big fights. We waited and we waited and we waited and then we waited some more for Spence Jr. versus Terrence Bud Crawford, a guy who we're all fans of, right?
Yeah.
It seems like we're going to be waiting and waiting and waiting again to see Boots in there, because not only is he not getting these fights at 147, it looks like he's turning down the Ortiz fight at 154. Joe, give us the breakdown of your understanding of this whole Boots situation, and we'll take it from there.
Nobody goes out of their way more than me to give these fighters the benefit of the doubt. But in the age of social media, in the age of the internet, there's no way you can hide anymore, right? And when you put things out there, when you see all these interviews that these fighters have and these things that they say, it comes back to haunt them. And we go back to that interview after the Kajutajan fight with Boots. And what is the first thing he said? I'm going to 154. I want the big fights at 154. And we thought we were going to get one of them big fights at 154 with Virgil Ortiz. And now all of a sudden, I want to stay at 147. I want to become undisputed. And the thing is he's right in his initial assessment. All the big fights are at 154. And the chances of you becoming undisputed at 147 and how long that's going to take. And you look like you're busting out at the seams at 147 as it is. And, we've heard him in interviews say that he has a hard time making the 147, that he walks around heavy. He said that to Steve Kim and Mario Lopez on the 3 knockdown rule. Like, it basically said, I think he was walking around at like over 170 pounds. So the fact that he's not going to go up there and take on a Virgil Ortiz, I find it mind-boggling, if I'm being honest.
I find it mind-boggling as well, Joe. And one of the reasons I really find it mind-boggling is Virgil Ortiz. It's not like he's this huge guy coming down to 154. Much like Boots, he's a guy who was fighting most of his career at 147 pounds and only recently moved up, right? I also found it very odd that apparently they were discussing this fight at 147 when we all know
that's
issues to make 147.
Yeah, that's
You're Eddie Hearn talking about this fight taking place at 147. I don't even understand that from a business perspective, because why would you risk canceling a fight if he ends up having a health issue trying to make the weight? A last-minute cancellation. So I don't quite get it. I don't quite know what's going on there. I don't quite understand what is happening, because they already went through the whole thing with Stanionis not taking the fight, Norman Jr. not taking the fight, and Mario Barrios was obviously tied up on the Netflix deal on the undercard of Jake versus Tyson, and is rumored to be a leading candidate to take on Tony's guy, Conor Benn. Right? So I don't understand what's going on. Tony P, give us the UK version, the South London version of what the hell is going on with Jaron Boots Ennis.
Yeah, this is just a hot mess. In all honesty, it looks like a total duck with the Virgil Ortiz fight. You know, politicals coming into play, boxing politics coming into play, but ultimately, you know, the opportunity was put in front of him. He seems to have refused that opportunity, and it's come back to bite him on the bum because it makes him look like a duck. You know, I'm not convinced that it is a duck, but I just, you know, the optics look like a duck. And obviously they don't make his whole case of being, you know, a future Hall of Famer, an all-time generational type fighter look any good when you're ducking fights. You know, these guys are moving very small amounts of weight. Jaron Boots Ennis could quite easily walk around the street at 160 pounds and not have a problem. So making weight for 154 should never been a problem. When we look back in the annals of history, we see fighters moving up and down in between those divisions at will. You know, Sugar Ray Leonard fighting at super middle, fighting at middle, fighting at light heavy, super middle. You know, it's ridiculous that these guys today are mincing around, trying to, you know, stop themselves fighting at a particular weight division. I mean, I don't know if you saw Lawrence Okoli hit the scales last night. That guy's put on a whole 60 pounds in like less than 12 months. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's put on about 8 weight divisions in literally, you know, 6 months.
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous that, you know, Boots Ennis is refusing fights at 154 when he quite easily makes that weight and can be strong and dominant even.
That's
yeah. There's one last guy I want to talk to you about. I've been excited about him. He's a UK heavyweight. He's been down in Brazil eating that sweet Brazilian acai, you know. And he's rejuvenated. He's coming to his full man years, right? And I called it. Joe, the evidence is out there on my channel for those that wanna doubt it. Joe knows the truth anyways, because we're always in contact. I predicted that he would knock out AJ at Wembley, and boy did he do what I thought he would do. He knocked AJ out. I'm talking about Triple D, Daniel Dynamite Dubois, who I'm saying should be the next James Bond. I'm throwing him out there. There's a vacancy there. I want him to get the job. We got to diversify his income streams, get him some MGM Hollywood money. But talk to me about in the ring. Talk to me about the Joe Parker fight, because we skipped over that on the Dimitri Bivol Better Beeb undercard. All of those fights are fire, but this fight, co-feature fight, heavyweight title fight, IBF heavyweight title fight, Joe Parker, Daniel Dubois. Talk to me, Tony P. What are your thoughts?
So it's very interesting that you should mention that fight, because for those who don't know it, I run my own business. It's a tailoring business. I make suits. And I had a call last week from none other than Don Charles.
Wow.
Who is a good friend of mine. I've known Don for a number of years. And I had an opportunity to ask him about Daniel fighting Joe Parker. And these are Don's words, or paraphrasing. He says, we look forward to that. Joe Parker has gone away and he's put on a hell of a lot of weight in order to try and become a bigger, stronger heavyweight.
Yeah.
That plays into our hands because Joe Parker, his game has been predecessor, you know, on speed and ability and movement. Yeah. Whereas now he's trying to bulk up and become this, you know, behemoth of a heavyweight. Well, guess what that does? That slows you down. And if you want to get to a situation where you can stand toe to toe with our boy, Daniel Dynamite Dubois, we got another D, because you know he's from Deptford, Southeast London, representing.
He's a Deptford daddy.
That's the one.
But lastly, Tony, talk to me about the suit game. Talk to me. The suit game. Suit game, Tony.
Yeah.
I don't even like suits, and I like that one.
That's a dynamite suit too.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. Look, we'll talk about this fight a little bit more in detail later on. We got to wrap things up here because we've come to our end, and I've got to get going on a Saturday here. But Tony B, pleasure to have you on.
Thank you again, gents.
Would love to have you back. Would love to invite you to Teachers Talking Boxing as well. All right, with Smallsy and my man Ludo. Another teacher to the group would be a great thing. So let's talk about that, Tony, and you enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you very much. What a show, Joe. All right. Everybody hit the like button. Share this on X, share it on YouTube. And if you're watching on demand, drop a comment. All right. Let us know what you thought. Give us your predictions for these fights. Let us know which of these fight cards is your favorite and which you're looking forward to the most. Any last words, Joe? Go for it.
Jesus, there's not much more that can be said. I mean, if you don't like what you're seeing right now in front of you in terms of this schedule, then I don't know what will ever make you happy, because we still hear people complaining here and there. But even with some of these PBC price tags for these pay-per-views, you're getting a lot of other content that you can still watch for significantly cheaper. So I think there's something out there for everybody if you're a boxing fan in 2025.
And on that note, enjoy the fight cards tonight. DAZN, we got Parro and Hitchens, and ESPN, we've got the rematch of Robesi Ramirez and Rafael Espinoza. And of course, in the main event, Oscar Valdez and El Vaquero Navarrete. We'll see you on the next one, guys. Take care.